I'm Lizzie Pearl. Have a good evening.
A natural disaster of a scale we have never seen. More than 400 people currently missing in Lismore, as we go to where terrified nursing home residents are being pulled from floodwaters. Victims stranded on their roofs, so many more still in need of saving. More than half a metre of rain dumped across our northern rivers. Over the border in Queensland, 8 dead, 3 missing, 15,000 homes underwater. And major developments in Ukraine as Russian kill squad in Kiev with orders to take out President Zelensky. Plus a stirring farewell to rugby league legend, family man and great bloke, Johnny Raper.
This is 9 News with Peter Overton.
Good evening. As we go to air tonight, more than 400 people are missing in our state's far north after days of torrential rain triggered some of the worst flooding on record. At the centre of the emergency, Lismore, a city tonight underwater. Emergency crews and local civilians have spent the day rescuing people from rooftops. As night falls, hundreds of lives are still on the line. 9 reporter James Wilson begins our coverage.
A rooftop refuge in a city submerged.
There's 26 of us on the roof waiting to be rescued.
Stranded atop the Lismore Lodge with only one way off. Water rising around them.
Something I've never ever seen in my life.
In this overnight deluge, it only took a matter of hours for the Wilsons River to swallow the streets. From the air at dawn, underwater streetlights acted as glowing buoys in a sea dotted with tiled and tin islands.
At about 12 o'clock last night, we were maybe ankle deep in water, and by 3 o'clock this morning, it was lapping at our 2-storey balcony, and by 4:15, we were on the roof.
Katie Davis, her husband, their 3 children and the family dog sheltering under solar panels.
We just grabbed shoes and whatever flotation devices we could find and popped the kids on the roof and called for help, and we've been sitting waiting ever since.
The fear they and their neighbours would be rained out.
They're just screaming for help. It's okay. It's heartbreaking to listen to them. If another 200 millimetres comes, we will all be swimming, and I'm talking about at least 50 people.
Their desperate plight unfolding live on the Today Show.
Katie, I want to let you know that we have just received information that emergency services are aware of where you are. And they're going to try and make their way out to you as soon as they humanly can.
And by midday, they were on their way to safety. For so many, it was an anxious wait as the panic rose with the river.
I'm waiting for my parents and my mum, my brother, my dad and 2 dogs to come out from South Lismore.
With the State Emergency Service overwhelmed, it was a citizens' armada of dinghies, jet skis and kayaks who floated to the rescue.
We've just picked up a boatload of people and their pets. We're at full capacity.
Going door to door, finding families with only a metre left of breathing room, parents passing their little boy into the arms of strangers.
How many more people is there? 3 or 4 or 5. Load them up, bring them over, we'll take them back.
Throughout the day, the old and the young ferried to safety.
We lost our beds, our food and everything that we have in the house, basically.
Fleeing with only what they could carry, pets even packed into Tupperware. Hundreds woken by the SES in the early hours.
Evacuate now before all evacuation routes are closed. You need to evacuate.
As Lismore went under.
Well, it's 1:30 in the morning. We've just been told to evacuate from our hotel.
The rain relentless. Pumps pushing water out of the CBD were in overdrive. Then overrun as the water overtopped the Lismore levee, passing 1 in 100-year levels. About 700 millimetres of rain dumped on the region, and the result was devastating. Runabouts forced to duck power lines as they sailed down what would be the Bruxner Highway Cars swallowed, homes swamped to the gutters.
We've got a marker on below our steps saying 2017. Then I thought, when we bought the house 5 years ago, it said, once in a 100-year flood will come about 4 centimetres into the house. I thought, okay, we can survive that. It was up to the top of the roof, top of the door frame when we got out. This is just insane.
In the damaging floods of 1954, the Wilsons River peaked at 12.11 metres. 20 years later, it hit the same mark. And in 2017, an 11.59 flood peak. This morning, the water was at 14.12 metres.
What we are seeing today is unprecedented, and the advice that we have received is that we would expect things to get worse over this period of time.
A catastrophe never seen before and never expected.
I'm on my roof. The water's still rising. My dog is stuck inside my house.
Lucy Vardar and her dog were rescued, and as time passed, more families were reunited. Dozens making it to the Southern Cross University, a rare dry patch set up as a makeshift evacuation centre. In town, army tankers are moving through, called in to aid the unfolding disaster effort, hampered by continuing poor weather.
But because of the weather conditions, it has been difficult to get our air assets, our helicopters up into the air and our boats into the water.
But late this afternoon, a break, and the Life Flight helicopter was able to take off, putting into perspective the scale of the crisis facing the northern rivers.
Staggering and heartbreaking. Let's go to James at Lismore. James, a frantic rescue operation unfolding at a local nursing home tonight.
That's right, Peter. Makeshift triage centre has just been set up behind us. You can see one of the residents there currently being wheeled into a transport vehicle. That is because water was lapping at this nursing home in Mackenzie Street in the past half an hour. We've had 90 residents who've had to be evacuated from this centre. Many of them have come in here by the SES float, looking incredibly terrified, old and frail. It is a scene that we've seen repeated all over Lismore today. The good news is that the rain is starting to ease and the river has peaked, but of course we are in for a very, very horrific day tomorrow when the water recedes and we see exactly how much damage has been done. Pete.
All right, James, look after yourself. More than 500 rescues have been carried out across a vast flood zone, which stretches from Coffs Harbour to the Queensland border. There are evacuation orders in place for 15 different areas, among them Murwillumbah, where residents are tonight holding their breath as rising waters sweep into town after record-breaking rainfall.
Soaking wet and in search of shelter.
How you going? Wet, mate, wet.
Residents of South Murwillumbah head for higher ground.
We took the early option of getting in with vehicles and warning residents to evacuate.
Those living in low-lying areas stranded after the town in the state's far northeast caught more than 400 millimetres of rain in 24 hours.
The people who have chosen to remain in South Murwillumbah, the only way they'll be able to get out if they are able to get out is by boat.
By morning, the swollen Tweed River had climbed well above major flooding. The evacuation order widened to include the centre of town and the east as the water spilled over the town's flood levee.
Murwillumbah is being evacuated. Our town is under a grave threat of further rain. It just hasn't stopped.
The floodwaters surpassing the levels recorded in the 2017 and 1974 disasters. The community rallying, sandbagging shop fronts in the main street. Record-breaking flooding upstream to Bulgham too, where the river is expected to peak in the next 2 hours. South at Mullumbimby near Byron Bay, residents have also been cut off. Brittany Trelaw awoke to her neighbours' screams for help.
The minute I jumped out of bed, I was in above ankle deep water. So I ran to the cot and got my baby out, and then we were basically just running through the house, packing things and putting it all up in the ceiling.
The young mother trapped in her home with her 2 young children.
Neighbours of ours across here have lived here their whole lives, and they've never seen it like this, ever.
This afternoon, they made it to the RSL, being used as an evacuation hub by boat. At nearby Ocean Shores, this family also had to be ferried out as the Brunswick River overflowed. Flights in and out of the region have been cancelled. At Grafton, the Clarence River is still rising. This was the historic Crown Hotel this morning, and this was it this afternoon.
I got woken up at 3 in the morning from the toilet bubbling. I went running upstairs and got my father, and we come downstairs and he looked at it. Then we walked outside and this was here, it was all flooding.
Michaela Turner setting out on her kayak to warn her neighbours. This elderly woman had to be rescued after becoming trapped inside her home. Her 3 pet dogs also safely returned to dry land. The circus, a washout, the big top looking more like a swimming pool.
There is 25 people. Yes, and we've got children as well, so our main priority is keeping everyone safe, and yeah, that's what we're going to try and do.
The relentless rain causing dangerous landslides too. The Guida highway is closed with dirt and debris covering the road. Kate Creedon, 9 News.
All right, let's go to 9 Sophie Upcroft at Maxville on the state's mid-north coast. Sophie, there are now warnings as far south as where you are.
Pete, the mid-north coast is next in the firing line and the people here are bracing for the brunt of it. There is a severe weather warning in place with up to 150 millimetres expected to fall in some areas in the next 6 hours, and it is falling on areas that have already been soaked by heavy rain for days. As you can see here, the Nambucca River is spilling over and the river levels are rising quite quickly. It's not there yet, but it could potentially impact the town centre over here. There is a moderate flood warning in place for the Nambucca River here in Maxville and also in Bowraville. Some people close to the water have already moved to higher ground, but everyone in this area is being warned to prepare to evacuate if they need to and to pay close attention to the warnings as the conditions can change very quickly and they are only likely to get more dangerous as that intense weather system moves south. Pete.
Sophie, thank you. For more on this unprecedented weather system, I'm joined by Amber in the studio. The rainfall figures are staggering, Amber. How much have we seen?
They sure are, Pete. Good evening to you. We have seen some extraordinary rainfall totals. In the 24 hours to 9 a.m, Dunoon, which is 20 minutes north of Lismore, picked up 775 millimetres. Goonangarry, which is 30 minutes inland from Byron, picked up 706. Nimbin and Mullumbimby picked up more than 500 millimetres. But let's take a look at those totals combined with today's rain. Doon, 40k southwest of Tweed Heads, has been smashed with 969 millimetres. The Tweed River, 834, more than 800 in Yuki and more than 570 millimetres in Lismore. Now, this is how it looked from above, the satellite showing the rain clouds moving across the north coast today, and we could see another 150 millimetres of rain across the northeast in the next 12 to 24 hours. The heavy fall should start to ease across the northern rivers overnight as the rain bomb starts to move south, but that means the Hunter, Sydney, the south coast and Illawarra are next in the firing line. Sydney could see 200 millimetres of rain by Thursday. I'll be back with more a little later, Pete.
Amber, thank you.